Well, Launa, I think you're in your 6th year as Target CEO now, and before that Officeworks. At what point in your career did you think, hey, I can be a CEO?
Well, Alan, I did think that at one stage, but I think going back, what I really did in my entire career was very much set myself goals, whether it be academic ones or whether it be career move ones. And I made them achievable in the sense of I would say, okay, within 2 years I want to have an honours degree, or within 2 years when I'd gone into buying I wanted to be a business manager. And each time when I got to those particular positions I would assess where I was and say, okay, what's the next step? And when I got to Target in the year 2000, I was running all the apparel at that stage. And I loved the company. From the moment I set foot in it, I just thought, you know, this is my company. I just had an affinity to it. And it was over time I thought, you know, I could actually run this, and that would be my dream. And when I got the opportunity, it truly was like coming home to something that I'd always unconsciously wanted.
And what do you think are the main attributes of a leader as in running Target?
You know, I think attributes of leaders vary according to the personality you are. And I know that for myself, mine is very much about being collaborative. I don't have all the answers, and I'm well aware of that. And one of the things I've learned over time is I have an opinion, but I'm very keen to hear from my team members, you know, my direct reports, as to what their views are. And I've got people that have got strong views, and many of them at times may not agree with me. But that's what I want to hear, because they can then pick up flaws in some of my ideas, challenge them, and offer other alternatives. And I think that for a leader is really important. The worst thing you can have is someone being a yes person to you.
And do you think that talent or drive and ambition are more important?
I think if you don't have the drive and the ambition, no matter how smart you are, you don't necessarily be highly successful. I think that is the most important criteria. Once you've got that, then it's about learning to an extent of being a leader and learning the things you should and you shouldn't do. But you know, some people never really want to lead. They're comfortable at their lives. And I think one of the things I know as a leader, I am never happy with what I've done. I always want more. I'm always wanting to challenge the status quo. And I think that is what makes a good leader, because you're always saying, well, what can we do better?
And what's the thing you found hardest to learn? The thing that you lacked the most?
I think one of the things I've had to learn is to take people with me, because at times, you know, I could see the vision but didn't necessarily always convey it correctly, or didn't convey it vividly enough. And that's one of the things I've learned, is that you have to keep repeating the vision. You know, I would say it once and then I would expect everyone to get it, maybe twice. But I think as a leader, the thing that I've really learned is when you've got a strategy and when you've got a plan, you've got to keep going back and saying it time and time again. You almost become like a politician. You know, a few key sentences, key messages, and you just keep repeating them.
And do you mean up or down?
Both. It's really interesting. It's not just down, it's right across the board. And by doing it, you actually then know it's achievable.
Are you better at managing up or managing down?
You know, it's an interesting thing, because Target's been very fortunate when we were part of the Coles group and now being part of the Wesfarmers group. In both cases, Target has been very much a business that's been left to run in its own capacity. And certainly that's the model at Wesfarmers. They give you your head and you run the business. So even though you have to manage up, they very much leave you to it. So you don't have to expend a lot of energy on that. The real energy has to go in leading your team with you, you know, right the way from the shop assistant in the store, knowing that our goal is to satisfy the consumer, knowing that we have to be fashionable and provide wonderful merchandise at a great price and great service. And those are the messages we're constantly trying to say, you know, what do we need to do to make that customer come into our stores and want to shop?
And what difference did it make to your life to be the 2003 Telstra Businesswoman of the Year?
You know, it was a fantastic experience, and people say to me, you know, what do you consider a defining moment in your life? And that actually was. And I'll tell you why. Because I was good at my job, and there's one thing I'd always loved.
What were you doing at that time?
I was running the apparel side of Target. So I wasn't running Target, but I had a very key role in the organization. And I think if there's one thing I hadn't learned to do that well, was to be more overt to my ability. And by that I mean I always tended to think, well, if I'm good at what I do, people will recognize it and I will be given the opportunities. Life doesn't work that way. You've actually got to promote yourself and set your goals. And I'd always been good at my own direct goals, but I haven't perhaps always been good at getting out there and letting people know that I wanted more. And by winning it, it kind of lifted my profile. And I got out there and I was making speeches, and suddenly people started to say, well, you know, she is very able. But it was also an opportunity for me to demonstrate that I could take on more. And having won it, I think that was why I was given the opportunity to go and run Officeworks, which was fantastic. It took me completely out of my comfort zone. Really good experience. And then I came back to Target a year later.
And is that sort of, I suppose, the defect that you talk about where, you know, you tended not to market yourself and you expected people to notice what you were doing? Is that a common issue among women executives, do you think?
I do. I really do, and I think one of the things that I do a lot of mentoring, and I really try and say to women, it's up to you to manage your career. Don't expect someone else to do it for you. Women tend, and I know it's a bland statement that I'm making, but I do think women on the whole often sit back, work very hard, are very good at what they do, but they don't promote themselves and put up their hand and say, you know, I can do that next job. Women tend to feel, unless they can do it 99%, they're not ready for the next step. I think a lot of men think, well, if I can do it 60%, I'm ready for the next role. And I think that's the difference.
So what advice would you give to women trying to become a CEO, to climb the ladder?
I think you have to recognize that it comes with a price. Everything in life comes with a price, and not everyone wants to juggle, say, a family and business. But if you believe you want to be a CEO, don't let anything stand in your way, and don't think you can't have it all. I think you can, but it's hard work. That would be the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is make sure you promote yourself. And I don't mean it in a negative way. I'm talking about getting out there, offering yourself in the sense of standing up to do any projects, but also conveying not only to your direct boss, but the boss above him or her, that you do have aspirations to be more.
You mentioned that in 2003 you were, you had a key role in Target. You were head of apparel. What difference does it make to your life and to the person you are from having a key role like that to being CEO?
Oh, it was a huge jump. I mean, it was a big jump because suddenly everyone thinks you've got all the answers. And of course I didn't have all the answers. I was out of my comfort zone. I'd gone into a business that I didn't really have any prior knowledge to. I mean, Officeworks was very different from fashion retailing. So that was initially a big jump for me. But it was also about harnessing the skills of everyone else. But I think what I was good at recognizing is that I didn't have all those attributes, and surrounding myself with people who had the strengths of things that I lacked and listening to them and taking their counsel.
So you didn't have to learn to be a delegator. You think you already
I was already a good delegator, but you have to also make sure that you don't feel disempowered when you start to listen to other people, and that's come with confidence. What I am today and what I was 6 years ago, I think are quite different. You know, I'm more confident. I trust my judgment. I trust my gut feel, where perhaps in the past you're asking more people and then you feel insecure because you're asking for people's help. Now if I don't know, I actually say, look, would really welcome your guidance on this. What would you suggest? And I don't feel vulnerable doing that. Whereas 6 years ago, you're trying to impress people and it's different.
You said that throughout your career and your life, you've set goals for yourself. Would you care to share with us your next goal?
You know, my goal really over the next few years is to make Target, and I really do mean this, a fabulous business. And I think we're in an environment...
You've already done that.
Yes, but you know, we're in an environment of incredible change. And retailing, I think, in the last 2 years has undergone more change than it has in the last 7 years. And with the advent of internet retailing suddenly taking off, retail just generally now becoming more international. You know, you've got the likes of Zara and great international brands coming into Australia, The Gap and so on. We were more secluded in the past. Now we've really got to compete in the whole world market as such.
Yes, I was going to ask about that, and in fact the retailing is under challenge in a number of ways, not just Zara and Gap in your area, but Costco in supermarkets.
That's right.
The Woolworths decision to partner with Lowe's in big box white goods and hardware, so it's kind of right across the board in retailing, isn't it?
It is, and everyone is looking for the opportunity of where you're going to find that gap to make money. And I think that retail has got to be really quick, and that's why I say, what is my desire? My desire is that we've got to relook at Target and say, what do we need to do to make sure that we are relevant still in 5 years' time?
Now, what about online retailing? There's been a controversy lately about GST on small parcels of goods coming into the country from overseas. Do you firstly think that would make a difference to online sales? And to what extent do you see it as a challenge to Target?
Well, I think the most important thing we need to recognise that the world has changed and that multi-channel retailing is here to stay. And the internet now has become available to everyone. Now in the past, and I think Australian companies on the whole have been quite slow in embracing it. I mean, we have to an extent as well, because it's complex, Alan. It's not an easy platform to work from. And we ourselves are actually launching it, our own internet buying retailing service as well. We're not ready to go just yet, but within the next quarter we will be. At the moment you can buy gift cards, but you can't actually buy a product online from Target. But it is the way of the future. Yes. I mean, every company you talk to in Europe is saying that now it's contributing 10 to 12% of their sales.
My wife and I were in Burberry's in London a few weeks ago, and they took our name down and said, we want you to be an online customer. They said delivery around anywhere in the world is free. They're now bombarding us with emails offering product from Burberry. So, I mean, it really is a challenge, isn't it?
It is, and I think that we can't stop it, and you don't want to. It's just another channel. And the interesting thing is the consumer does not differentiate, especially the young customer, as to how they bought the product. I mean, if you speak to a young person of 19 who's bought something online, and let's just say Target's online was up and operating already, and you said to them, where did you buy it? And they said, Target. They wouldn't actually say, but I got it online. They would just say Target. They don't differentiate. To them, it is just another form of being able to shop. And that's what it's all about. And with people being so time poor now, especially women who've got children and so on, it's an ideal time to do it at night, 9 o'clock at night, the kids are in bed, go through on the internet, look at prices, look at product. I mean, even if you're not buying online, so many customers now do all their research online before they decide to actually go and make the purchase.
Yes, do you think Australian retailers, including Target, have been too slow to develop an online presence?
I think we have, I do. And I think Target has. I mean, we identified that we needed to do it. As I say, it's complex because we're quite a promotionally driven business, and you need to make sure that your platform is such that your prices online are what they are in the store, and because we have promotions every single week, you've got to be able to manage that. It's much easier said than done, and it's been an interesting journey. What's also been interesting, those companies that embraced it 3, 4, 5 years ago, today when we spoke with them say they would have done it differently. A lot of people have had learnings, and a lot of big companies now are going back and reinventing their whole webs, and they've gone back, they've taken their learnings and done it differently now. So we were cautious because we didn't want to go down the path of making an expensive blunder, but it has moved really quickly. And I feel strongly for it now.
I wonder whether another challenge you might face this year is, and in the years ahead, is price rises in China. Wages there are rising. Are you starting to see some of your manufacturers in China sticking up their prices? We are,
and it's really been a challenge. We've actually seen it over the last kind of year, but we've been able to absorb the price increases because of the strong dollar, as most of the retailers have. And the issue is now cotton prices have gone up, as you know, over 100%. And we're starting to see that whole wage impact coming through in China. And one of the things that we have to be really cautious of is that in our quest to achieve a good price, that we don't allow the Chinese manufacturers to in any way diminish the quality. because quality is paramount for our business. I mean, Target is all about style, quality and value. And if you were to say to me what are the most 3 important words in Target's whole philosophy, I would quote those words. And my fear as a managing director is that we need to really ensure that we use good suppliers so that we in no ways compromise our quality. And it is about value, but the prices are going up.
But the problem is that the price environment in Australia is deflating,
exactly.
coming down,
I
not
know.
going up. So you're in a squeeze
I know.
between rising manufacturing prices in China and falling prices here.
That's exactly what's happened. I mean, last year, and it's happened with all retailers in the fashion business, whether it be Myer or Kmart or Target, have all suffered from deflation. And we've been fortunate, as I said, the dollar has been strong, so we've been able to use some of that and pass it on to the consumer. But realistically now, we are going to see price increases, and it's happening right across the world. I mean, H&M, who are a very, very good international retailer, came out with good sales increases, but said their margin has been squeezed, as have Primark, which is very much a low-price retailer in the UK. So it's right across the board, and prices are going to start to rise. It's realistic.
We'll have to leave it there, but thanks very much for joining CEO Hub.
Thank you.
It's been great.
Thank you very much indeed. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.